Greetings, everyone. Russian soldiers are laying down their arms and surrendering. Ukraine is rendering the Kremlin powerless on the Lyman front. Ladies and gentlemen, an unprecedented milestone has just shaken world military history. For the first time, a strategic position of the Russian army has been completely captured without the presence of any Ukrainian soldiers. What is really happening on the battlefield? Putin and the Russian generals have relied on human wave tactics and numerical superiority. However, Ukraine has officially completely reversed that brutal rule with something new. With the arrival of the 25,000 Mk1 combat warriors, Ukraine is turning the battlefield into a mechanical nightmare for Russian infantry. An unprecedented milestone in the history of human warfare has just been established. For the first time, a strategic enemy position has been completely captured. Putin and his allies at the Kremlin have always placed their full trust in the overwhelming strength of their troop numbers to crush Ukraine's defenses. According to Russia's brutal military logic, the nature of the war is simply direct confrontation, human flesh and blood against human flesh and blood. They'll send thousands of soldiers into the front lines, accepting heavy losses just to seize positions by sheer numbers. However, Ukraine has completely reversed this most brutal rule. President Volodymyr Zelensky made a historic statement that shifted the balance of the entire world. Capturing a position without losing a single soldier is not just a tactical success, but a great leap forward that completely changes the very core philosophy of modern warfare. The emergence of a new Steel Legion with 25,000 robot warriors deployed directly to the fiercest front lines. This situation is sowing deep anxiety for Putin, as Russia now has no trump cards left to deal with this mechanized army. You will see just how powerless Russia has become as we delve into the shocking details right after this. First, let's take a closer look at this historic campaign. Although the exact location remains undisclosed for security reasons, military analysts believe the campaign took place on the Eastern Front, where the fiercest battles are raging. It was the result of perfect coordination between air and ground forces. In traditional warfare doctrines, to capture a fortified position, infantry must launch an assault with the support of heavy armored vehicles immediately after artillery clears the way. This process will certainly lead to heavy casualties as soldiers have to cross open spaces, which are often referred to as no man's land. However, the Ukrainian command firmly refused to make unnecessary human sacrifices and decided to give the initiative to machines. In the initial phase, FPV drones, kamikaze drones, and high-resolution reconnaissance UAVs were deployed simultaneously. Russian trenches, communication trenches, and firing points were bombarded from above with absolute precision. Autonomous drones can reach targets even in a dense electronic warfare environment, preventing Russian soldiers from raising their heads above trenches. Immediately after the tremendous pressure from the air, Ukraine produced armed and armored ground robots smashed through no man's L and directly penetrated Russian positions. As Zelensky emphasized, one of them entered the most dangerous area and accomplished its mission excellently. Facing the hovering drones above and the robots equipped with machine guns and grenade launchers steadily advancing, the morale of the Russian soldiers completely collapsed. Their only choice at that moment was to lay down their weapons and surrender to the emotionless machines. At the end of the battle, not a single Ukrainian soldier was injured, but the objective was completely captured. The technological foundation behind this brilliant success is the result of many months of intense research, development, and testing right on the battlefield. Today, more than 280 companies in Ukraine are working day and night to manufacture ground robots, with plans to deploy over 20,000 devices to the front lines by 2026. Here are the main systems that played the leading role in that historic campaign and on all fronts. At the top of the list is Zatel, the backbone of the war. Originally designed to transport ammunition and evacuate the wounded, this vehicle was transformed into a true mobile disaster response hub after a revolutionary upgrade in February 2026. An FPV drone launch module controlled via fiber optic cables has been integrated into it. The most frightening thing for Russia is that the fiber optic connection does not receive any radio signals from outside, rendering Russia's massive electronic warfare systems completely blind and powerless against these drones. Zatel is no longer just a simple transport vehicle. It is now a silent assassin, approaching Russian trenches without being affected by jamming devices and never missing its target. Next is Termit, the architect of invisible traps. He is a true demining expert. When Russian armored units advance through areas they believe are safe, they have no idea that they're stepping into a living hell that Termit has quietly prepared hours before. He carries 20 anti-tank mines on each trip and is capable of operating continuously for 12 hours. This robot cripples the advance of Russian troops in deadly minefields without a single Ukrainian soldier having to risk their life. At the most intense flashpoints, the Adon and Protector units, known as the fire-breathing dragons of the front line, join the battle. In battles that push the limits of human psychology, this duo knows neither fear nor fatigue. While Adon relentlessly pressures Russian trenches with its automatic grenade launcher, Protector, a heavy ground robot, uses an M2.50 heavy machine gun to penetrate armored vehicles and intercept low-flying Russian aerial assets. For Russian infantry, having to face a steel enemy that never retreats has caused a serious collapse in morale. Behind all that firepower stands a silent hero of the front line named ZMI. With a carrying capacity of up to 1,000 kg of cargo, this heavy-duty logistics robot helps keep vital supply lines running continuously through mud and relentless Russian artillery barrages. While Russian artillery tries to cut off supply routes, ZMI quietly transports ammunition and evacuates the wounded from dangerous areas. All these systems are the most powerful evidence that war has completely changed, not only in the air, but also right on the ground. Although President Zelensky's statement has gone down in history as a beginning, in reality, Ukraine's transformation of the battlefield through the philosophy of steel replacing people started long before that, and each stage has gone far beyond previous limits. In December, the Depsoy robot single-handedly defended the Ukrainian army's position for 45 days and nights. Technicians operated the robot from a distance of 24 kilometers, performing maintenance and reloading every 48 hours. A machine held the position for weeks on end, tirelessly, without fatigue and without fear. While not a single Ukrainian soldier was put at risk, in January, 3 Russian soldiers were forced to surrender to an armed ground robot near Lyman. This was the first recorded case of surrender to a robot in history. Also that month, the 3rd Assault Brigade released footage showing a suicide robot carrying 12 anti-tank mines, steadily advancing toward hiding Russian soldiers. By February, the NC-13 unit of the 3rd Assault Brigade had launched an operation called Samurai. In the industrial area between Zaporizhia and Donetsk, 2 ground robots approached Russian ammunition depots and detonated them, despite enduring at least 4 FPV drone attacks, 7 airstrikes, and 6 intense artillery barrages. Russia probably spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to stop these robots, but in the end, they remained unstoppable entities. Meanwhile, the impact of ground robots on the front lines is not limited to detonating ammunition depots. At this point, we need to take a closer look at the structure and true nature of the machines being deployed to the front lines to understand why they have such game-changing power. The Ukrainian technology company Tenko LLC has officially deployed advanced unmanned ground systems into actual combat. These machines are now fighting side by side with heavy armored units. This system includes 2 main variants. The first variant is a pure assault machine, a combat module equipped with a 40mm grenade launcher or a heavy machine gun, along with a thermal camera and a laser rangefinder. It is capable of detecting targets from several kilometers away, regardless of whether it is day or night. The second variant serves as the silent transporter of the battlefield, a specialized logistics model. This model can reach the most dangerous hotspots on the front lines, and when necessary, it can launch FPV drones from special containers. Imagine you are facing a cold, ruthless block of metal, something that knows no pain, no fear, and silently tracks you even in the darkest night using thermal sensors. For soldiers on the battlefield, the psychological breakdown caused by this is far more terrifying than any physical wound. The widespread adoption of these systems is completely upending the equation between the cost of war and human lives. However, Ukraine wants to completely break that equation. The Hornet drone has crossed a new and astonishing threshold as it began to hunt Russian military trucks completely autonomously. Thanks to its integrated targeting software, it can maintain its trajectory and lock onto targets even in environments with intense electronic jamming. The operator no longer needs to intervene in the final stage of the attack because the drone itself will make the lethal decision autonomously. This is one of the first concrete steps toward autonomous warfare supported by artificial intelligence. And Ukraine's arsenal of unmanned weapons continues to expand. On April 14th, the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs showcased its new weapons at a large-scale defense industry exhibition attended by many foreign diplomats. One of the brightest stars of the showcase was the Sitchin attack drone with an extended range. With a range of up to 1,400 kilometers, it is capable of carrying a 40-kilo warhead, reaching speeds of 200 kilometers per hour in operation, and remains resilient even in dense electronic warfare environments. This system has greatly improved Ukraine's ability to hit deep inside enemy territory. Furthermore, Ukraine is strengthening its power through close cooperation with foreign partners. A support fund based in San Francisco has delivered 2 Phantom Mecha-1 humanoid robots to Ukraine. With a height of 175 cm and a weight of 80 kilograms, these humanoid machines are capable of climbing stairs and passing through doors, promising to play an important role in changing the course of the war. They are capable of reaching areas in urban combat that wheeled robots cannot access. They are being developed to use light weapons such as handguns and M16 rifles. According to Mike LeBlanc, the co-founder of the support fund, Ukraine has become the world's most important real-world proving ground for warfare, and all these individual achievements are now being connected into a unified system. On April 18th, Minister Fedorov made a historic announcement. The Ministry of Defense will sign contracts for 25,000 ground robot systems in the first half of 2026. This number is twice the total amount purchased throughout 2025. This is not just a distant goal. Behind it are extremely concrete steps. The Ukrainian Defense Procurement Agency has signed 19 contracts worth about $251 million with domestic manufacturers. A specialized competence center for ground robotic systems is also being established. Fedorov's goal is very clear and bold. We are aiming for 100% of frontline logistics to be carried out by robotic systems. Let's reflect on this statement's significance. Every ammunition transport, every medical evacuation, every frontline supply operation, all of them will be carried out without any human presence. The impact of these advancements on Russia is not limited to the military aspect. The psychological effect is many times greater. Bambi, an operator who served in the U-25 Brigade, summed up the situation succinctly. The front line now feels like a scene from the movie Terminator. A ground robot slowly advances toward your position, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you shoot a person in the chest, they'll stop firing. But if you shoot a robot, it doesn't feel any pain, while there's still someone sitting behind a screen ready to retaliate against you immediately. This psychological effect reduces endurance and causes faster surrender. When fighting a human enemy, people may calculate that they can shoot and hit him. But when facing a machine that doesn't know pain, doesn't know fear, tracks you with thermal vision even in the dark, and keeps attacking even after you've stopped moving, all calculations become meaningless. The Russian soldiers who surrendered to robots at Lyman or to machines during the campaign last April are not examples of personal weakness, but rather an acknowledgement of the harsh new reality of war. The human psyche will break down when faced with a killing machine constantly hovering overhead and on the ground, never knowing when it will strike a fatal blow. This breakdown makes Russia's offensive tactics more costly than ever before. At the tactical level, Russia is facing a serious dilemma. The entire war strategy of Moscow is built on high-intensity infantry assaults. They accept heavy casualties, assuming the enemy is human and will eventually tire. However, robots have shattered that assumption. Machines never get tired, never know fear, and always attack with the same relentless determination every time they strike. Russia is now being pushed to create new weapon types, advanced electronic warfare systems, and new tactics to cope. However, making a technological leap under sanctions is extremely difficult and time-consuming. Moreover, Russia's own efforts to develop robots are still far behind Ukraine. Russia has developed the Ria combat robot in the Lyagutka suicide vehicle. But it's really hard for them to compete with Ukraine's diverse ecosystem, where up to 280 companies are involved in production instead of just a few limited models. According to data from Ukraine, they are currently using about 30% more unmanned aerial vehicles than Russia, and the use of advanced anti-jamming systems, such as fiber optic control platforms, is rapidly increasing. This technological gap is widening and working against Russia month by month. This robotics revolution is creating multi-layered advantages for Ukraine. The first and most important advantage is protecting human lives. Ukraine is facing a serious manpower shortage. Debates about military mobilization are still ongoing, and finding new soldiers to replace those who have fallen is becoming increasingly difficult. As Minister Fedorov confirmed, until 6 months ago, evacuating wounded soldiers by robot was still rare, but today robots are regularly carrying out that task in the most dangerous areas. The second advantage is addressing the dead zone problem. Unmanned aerial vehicles have created a deadly zone stretching from 20 to 25 kilometers behind the front lines. In this area, almost no soldier can move during the day. Even at night, they can easily be detected by thermal cameras. Soldiers are forced to hide or can only take advantage of the darkness and thick fog to move. However, robots can operate freely in this area. They move silently, leave no thermal traces, and continue their mission unharmed even when hit by gunfire. During the fierce battles around Pokos, the robots have tirelessly transported essential supplies since December 2025. A drone operator exclaimed that one of them went straight to the entrance of our trench. I feel like a primitive man looking at alien technology. 2 years ago, I couldn't even imagine this. Commander Petke of the 3rd Corps predicts that 30% of infantry units could be completely replaced by robots by the end of this year. In the long run, this number could reach up to 80%. The third advantage is simple economics. The cost for a high-end ground robot ranges from about £7,500 to £22,000 sterling. Their operating range can reach up to 50 kilometers, and they can run continuously for 8 hours on a single charge. If one happens to be destroyed, a replacement version can be produced within just a few weeks, which means the production speed is 10 times faster than the time it takes to build a conventional tank. As Pablo mentioned, we lose about 3 robots each day, with a loss rate of around 25%. But when compared to protecting the lives of infantry soldiers, this is a very small price to pay. And even this loss rate is somewhat misleading, because while a destroyed robot can be easily replaced on the production line, finding someone to replace a fallen soldier is currently Ukraine's most difficult problem. The fourth advantage is export value and national prestige internationally. Drone and robot technology that has been battle-tested in Ukraine is now becoming a highly sought-after commodity on the global arms market. President Zelensky has signed 10-year defense agreements with a number of Gulf countries, including Egypt and Qatar, in recent weeks. Now, Ukraine is no longer just a country receiving aid, but has become a leading technology exporter, contributing to the global security structure, based on its own hard-earned combat experience. Valery Zaluzhny, former commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian military and now ambassador to the United Kingdom, summed up this future in a speech at Chatham House, saying that in the not-too-distant future, we will witness dozens or even hundreds of smarter and cheaper unmanned vehicles launching simultaneous attacks from the air, on land and sea from various directions and altitudes. The assessment from the former deputy commander of the Westport Academy is even sharper, asserting that what we are witnessing is not simply a temporary disadvantage, but rather the very nature of the future of warfare. War is no longer decided by who has the larger army, but by who possesses smarter machines. Ukraine has used sea drones to infiltrate the Russian Navy right at their docks in the Black Sea, and now with ground robots, they are rendering Russian infantry completely powerless, even at their own defensive positions. The same principle is being uniformly applied on every front. Low-cost, easily replaceable, and mass-produced unmanned systems are creating an asymmetric advantage over expensive and limited traditional weapons. So, what do you think about Ukraine using combat robots against Russia to reduce human casualties? Can Russia find a way to turn the tables on this?